All right, so let's get this half of a bucket, about a half a bucket of concentrates here. And this is actually really interesting because I was digging in my normal really good spot and found a huge boulder, like really big for this area. And so I got about a half of a bucket, maybe a quarter of the bucket was from around that area, was from around the boulder. The rest of it I had to go just other areas in that, other spots in that area, because there just wasn't enough material around that boulder. But I noticed around that boulder there were several other pretty sizable rocks right in that same area too. I'd say small boulders maybe. So I'm hoping that, you know, what I've noticed about this really good spot that I'm at is whenever I'm on the good gold, I'm seeing the cobbles that are like 5-6 inches across. I'm seeing those go down to almost a foot deep. This boulder was itself between a foot and a half deep, and then underneath it was some more big cobbles. Now I dug deeper underneath the regular cobbles, and the only thing underneath the regular cobbles was just this light colored sand that I found usually doesn't have any gold in it. So I know once I dig down and get past the cobbles, then there's no point in me going any deeper. But this was really interesting that it was cobbles along with a couple of, probably 3 boulders. So I don't know. Well, it's interesting. So normally whenever I'm running the sluice, I just dump all the cons into one bucket and deal with it at home. But I do want to at least get an idea. I'm gonna real roughly pan this down and then I'll take home to clean it the rest of the way. But I want to at least get a real rough idea of what I'm facing here. So like, is this a pattern? Like if I find big boulders underneath cobbles and then there's cobbles underneath that boulder, is that something I need to watch out for? Now, I've never found anything even close to a picker here. And I don't know if we even have any pickers in Oklahoma at all. At least not in the Arkansas River. So I don't really know, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. There's a lot of black sand here. I barely made a dent on this half a bucket, and I mean, everything's already at the top. All these riffles at the top are completely packed with black sand. There's still a lot of good exchanges going on in the vortexes here, so I know I'm good there. But man, there's definitely a lot of heavies in this area. So I don't know, it'll be interesting, but let's go ahead and keep panning this one half of a bucket here out, and let's see what we've got, and see if maybe this is a pattern that I can look for in the future whenever I'm prospecting other spots out here, to see if it's something I want to keep an eye on. Because if it is, you know, if I know that, you know, I can just skip certain grounds because, well, maybe there's cobbles but they're only sitting on top, or maybe it's just gravels sitting on top. You know, I know I can just skip those areas. So I've done enough prospecting areas that, like earlier I had one that just had gravels on top, half a can classified, half of a bucket classified, only got me like 3 or 4 specks. So I know that is a pattern that stays pretty true down here. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to find a pattern here. If I keep cobbles that I can count on and trust that they're good, then that is going to be definitely a good sign. I'm going to try to increase my rock wall here. Brought my daughter and one of her friends down here, and they were playing. And I asked them not to step on my rock wall, but I think somebody did. But that's okay. We're all just down here to have fun, so I'm just glad to get to come and do this, and I'm glad that my daughter has a friend that likes to play at the river too, even though they're not interested at all in gold prospecting or in fishing or anything. We got something here. And you know, I mean, I can almost speed pan this as fast as the sluice, maybe half the rate of the sluice, but it's a lot easier to use the sluice, and it's a lot more relaxing. I really do enjoy the sluice quite a bit, actually. Man, these flies, these little black flies keep biting me in the leg. So I'm gonna let the tailings clear out just a little bit on the lights, and then I'm gonna probably take a scoop of some of the heavies that are left right at the end of the sluice, and just toss it back in. I mean, I've got pretty good faith in this little sluice as long as I don't overload it. I wouldn't mind having one more section to it, maybe a little bit narrower, so I could keep the velocity up as it gets to the end. But you know, as long as I'm running classified material, this little thing, it eats dirt like a champ, and it's out of PLA, which is really hard plastic. So I want to reprint one out of TPU, and I'm working on some forms. I just need to get around to filling some forms that I can use silicone to make mats with. So I've got one printed out. I just haven't done anything with it yet. But I need to. You can take silicone and put it in soapy water, and then pull it out and kind of squish it into a ball and squeeze all the water out. And then you've got a little bit of time before that thing sets, and you can squish it into basically the inverse or the reverse of something like this. And then the silicone takes the shape of this, and then you can have a silicone mount. And silicone mounts are great because I find that silicone, like I use silicones on the joints here, the silicone grips onto all this fine part of it really, really well. A lot of heavies, but I'm still seeing a lot of good exchange happening here. These vortexes are not even close to packed, so I know these riffles up top are, because they don't generate, I mean they do generate a little bit of turbulence, but not a whole lot, so they do pack it pretty easily. But those vortexes, they generate a lot of turbulence, so it's really good to clear the flash film out. And as long, like I said, as long as I don't run it too heavy or too fast or too long between emptying it out, then it does a really good job. Whenever I sample my tailings, it does a really good job catching pretty much everything. You're gonna miss a little bit, but the flip side of that is, you know, I'm able to do a lot more. I'm able to run a lot more dirt. Try to switch hands here so you guys can see the dirt land as it lands into the sluice. You can see here, it clears out pretty quickly. Just doing like a little half scoop at a time. And then every now and then I'll just let it run for a second to kind of make sure that all those vortex circle things stay fairly clear. Also give my tailings pile a little bit of time to clear out some. A little bit of organic matter because this is the spot's under some trees. That's why there's a break in the current. It's whenever the floodgates are open. The current comes through and hits these trees, and it settles everything out. So it's a really good trap for gold. It's like its own little sluice box kind of. But also something else I noticed was around that big boulder there was a lot of fossils. Now I find a lot of fossils down here. They're mainly like little marine fossils from a long time ago. But I've noticed that it seems like areas where I find a lot of, I guess it's limestone or whatever the old bedrock is, that's got a lot of the fossils in it. Seems to be a spot that usually holds a lot of gold too. Look at the sinking that I was sitting on. Moved out to the side and just walk here, get this finished up. You know, sun's starting to get pretty low. Don't want any Bigfoots coming out here and getting us. But it sure is neat to watch all that exchange happening as that stuff slowly works its way down. And like I said, you know, as long as I keep this stuff classified pretty well, it does seem to do a really good job not packing the little vortex areas. Not sure where I got the plan for this at. I think it was probably out on Maker World. I have a Bamboo Labs printer, an H1 carbon, and most of the stuff I've switched to printing. If I need rigidity that's still good to do outside, I'll use PET G. I have some ASA I tried to print with, but it wasn't doing very good. It was delaminating on me, so I need to maybe mess with some temperatures on the 3D printer whenever it falls. But here I just have all fine gold. Stupid flies. Jeez. Let's the rest of this scoot it up here. Sure don't want to overload it right now because this last little bit will be the heaviest of the heaviest stuff. Don't want to blow the stuff out with too much current. Alright, so now what I need to do is I need to get some water in the bucket. Alright, so now I got quite a bit of water. Alright, and now what I want to do, what I like to do is set rocks in front of the sluice to kind of block the water flow a little bit. So I had a few times where I wasn't real careful and ended up washing some stuff out, so put it up ever so carefully. Now, what I want to do is just dump it all off in there. Give it a little twist. As I twist, it's going to wash some of this stuff out. Flip it around, go the other way. It is really hard to get those like right in the bottom of these circle things. Those holes go pretty deep and they are really hard to get out all the way sometimes. You gotta let gravity work. So tip it forward. That's you splash water against it. Alright, so that looks pretty clean. Now that's half of the bucket classified to colander. Let me show you. Oh, I don't have my colander with me, but it's a colander, so it's pretty good. Some water out, but you can see the sluice, you know, it doesn't leave very much concentrate, so not a lot in there. So let's move over here out of currents a little bit, and then we'll work on getting this pan sears. Bury that in water. But make sure you guys can see. Lower the tripod down some. Boy, this tripod sure makes filming a lot more handy. Alright, so should be in a good picture. So what I'll do here is, now again, I'm not going to try to clean this all the way up. I just want to get an idea of, am I seeing a lot different size or shape, or a different kind of gold, or different amount of gold, or what? Like, what's it look like right now? So like there's hardly any lights in here. Almost everything's a heavy. About ready to start panning it back already. It does make me a little nervous with how little it has. What I'll probably do is go sample, do some panning. I'll let the current, actually, let's go do that right now. Let's go ahead and let's remove, see all the black sand there. So let's go ahead and remove this walk wall a little bit, and we'll get some current through here, and that current will blow through and it'll get a lot of this blonde sand out for me. So, and then I'll come back, I'll do some spot panning of the tailings to make sure that I'm not hurting myself, because especially if I'm trying to, you know, if I'm trying to evaluate, if I'm trying to figure out how to find better gold, I sure don't want to risk I sure don't want to risk, you know, losing a whole bunch out the end of my sluice. Especially because this is PLA, which makes me a little bit nervous because it's a pretty hard plastic. So gotta be super careful when using the non-riffled side. But I'm just trying to get some of these bigger rocks out here, some of the blonde sands that are still in there. So found them in my testing. I'm pretty good at not missing. I've had some times where I could see specks of gold whenever I'm to this spot, this part, and I could watch them and make sure that I know exactly how much I can push it without losing anything. So and this might be absolutely loaded for Oklahoma, but let's just get an idea. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna clean up all the way. You really run the risk of losing a lot of gold if you do that. So let's try to move the pan here. There we go. So we'll just try to just get an idea. There's another piece right there. There's a couple of pieces right there. Let me see here if we can zoom in a little bit. And yeah, you can see some gold right there. But like I said, you know, I see a few more specks. If I get home and clean it out, I won't know for sure how many I've got because I'm sure I washed a whole bunch back prematurely. I can see several pieces right there. Oh man, I'm way off camera, sorry. It's just such light gold. If you really want to get a good idea, you just have to take it home and put it on a cleanup sluice. So yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know, there's 12 or 15 right there, and I've washed back quite a few just being in a hurry. So not a horrible spot, but definitely not as good as some of the other spots I've seen. So anyways, we'll put this with the other concentrates and then do a little sample panning and see if we missed a whole bunch or not, because I was expecting a little bit more than that, although Oklahoma, that is really good. And there's even gold right there. Now, since I'm sample panning, I gotta make sure my pan is clean because I don't want any contamination. Because if there's a piece stuck in like one of these riffles or something, then I really gotta make sure I get all those out, because the last thing I want to do is think that I'm missing stuff with the sluice when really it's just the pan itself is dirty. So we got that. Should be pretty clean. All right, now let's go over here and let's just grab some of the heavies here. So ideally I would expect the heaviest stuff to have like kind of remained here on the side. So I'm gonna block this stuff off a little bit because it's just a little too much current for me to be able to do much with this. So, rocks back in there. Slow the current down a little bit. Sample a lot of the areas where that weight is in the pan. So let's see what we got here. You're not supposed to pan into the current because the people who are much more experienced at this stuff than I am. Let's go ahead and we'll go with the current here. Let me get where the camera can see it too. So Now, there might just be gold here anyways, or there might be gold from the previous time, because I've used this spot before to sluice with, so I don't know, it's kind of hard to figure out how to test this and know for sure that it's from today. But let's see what we've got here. Well, it's black sand for sure, but that's to be expected right where my tailings pile is. Now, I wouldn't expect any gold to make it much further down because gold's pretty heavy, about twice as heavy or more. I'm gonna have to switch hands for just a second. Rider's crank there. So hopefully I find nothing. Let me just get some of these bigger rocks here out of the way, a couple of them. I am being a little bit more cautious here. I see 2 pieces because I do want to be pretty accurate here. Now I know that was, yeah, 2 pieces, not too bad. 2 more than, oh, is that? No, that's not, okay. So 2 pieces right there. Nothing too awfully crazy. I would prefer it to be 0 pieces, but you know, it is what it is. The sluice allows me to run a lot more, and like I said, those could have just been here anyways, or they could have been here from a previous time. There is a little bit of gold just in the soil here in this area, but yeah, anyways, I'll take this home and get cleaned up, and then we'll see what our final tally is. So thanks, guys.
All right, thank you for sticking through to the end. The final tally on this was 143 pieces of gold. 136 of those were from the 1 1/4 classified buckets that I ran through the sluices. There were 6 pieces from some other sample grounds that I had tested. So I know it doesn't really look like 143 pieces, but some of it's so fine it's not really picked up on this camera. I am working on improving my production quality. I do have a DSLR camera. I will start getting pictures with that so you can see better, and ordered a mic, so tomorrow that should arrive, and hopefully I'll be able to have good mic with me out in the field. So thanks guys for sticking around. Like, share, subscribe. It helps out a lot, and as always, take it easy.